Welcome, everyone, to today's episode with Women of All Generations. I am very excited about this conversation with Meredith Lowry today because I have known Meredith for 15 years or more, we often find ourselves in networking places where it's like, "Hi, how are you? Hey, how are you?" And we're, meeting and greeting people that we don't know. So I'm excited about this conversation and getting to hear kind of some of the background and also knowing I got to kind of be on the sidelines. So Meredith, introduce yourself to people who don't know you.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to do this for the Fayetteville Chamber. So, for people that don't know me, I am a patent attorney with Wright Lindsey Jennings. I've been doing patent work for over 20 years with trademarks and patents. Then privacy work in AI. I started doing privacy work about 15 years ago, and it just kept accelerating. And then the AI issues that come up right now. So the biggest thing in my life right now is I've been asked to talk about AI governance. I think we're at 10 sessions this year. It's May. I got one tomorrow. This is keeping me very busy talking about how to use this ethically and in a way that will not damage a business reputationally.
Why don't you take us back to the beginning? Where did you where'd your career start? And I would guess that you didn't have any idea where it would lead to where you're standing today. But how'd you get started in all of this?
I actually date my career back pre law school and everything. I started working when I was 14 at Stanton Animal Hospital. There was a woman there that the doctors wanted me to assist with. And her version of the world is like, no, I do not need an assistant. I need a co-worker. You are going to work. And my parents had already taught me the value of hard work. But that was a fun episode into, like, learning how to be an actual team player and also getting to deal with all the customer service pieces. I mean, I was on the front lines of that animal hospital and recognizing how important people are to the business, that forward-facing person made me want to continue helping business, especially once I got done with law school.
That's fantastic. And then how did you okay, that's a big jump from veterinary clinic to how did you decide to go to law school? Come on. I gotta ask that follow-up question.
Um,
Because
so
I'm like, that's not where I thought we were gonna start with law school.
I've always been, my parents would say I've always been slightly argumentative, though I don't actually argue in court. But when it came to doing anything in our family, I mean, my dad being a veterinarian, we were always very much exposed to science. I mean, my sisters, one's an engineer, one's a doctor. And then with the patent side of things, I mean, the science piece made sense. I actually thought about being a doctor for a little bit, but the smell of blood is something I cannot take that. I can see the blood. I can deal with all the things that come with doctoring. The smell, though. And so I needed to do something else. And helping business, I didn't really want to work corporate inside the business. I wanted to do law. So,
Awesome. So tell us about a moment in your career that may have changed things, a pivot, a phone call, an opportunity, or even a setback that ultimately pointed you in a direction that you maybe didn't see coming.
I don't know. I mean, setbacks are always those opportunities. But the biggest thing I would say that changed my career is joining Wright Lindsey Jennings. You know, I'd been a smaller patent firm and then a smaller, like, mergers, acquisitions firm. And then being at a larger firm and being able to step back and say, okay, I don't like litigation. It's not my jam. I do like thinking strategy, uh, but I don't want to be the one that's on camera and the courtroom situation, which is interesting since I love my public speaking so much. But
Yeah.
I it was a nice change for me to be able to take out the areas of my practice that I didn't care for and dive deeper into the areas that I loved. And Wright Lindsey gave me that opportunity. So I can do my public speaking. I can go talk about AI. I can go and focus on design path law, my true loves of my practice.
And, launch things like the, initiative to help other
Yes.
women. Tell us a little bit about that.
So in 2019, we start. I mean, I have had women clients for forever, and one in particular, it made me realize, wait a minute, we don't have enough bridges for women entrepreneurs to get into things like doing like with the chamber. And so we started Woman Run, which is our initiative to provide networking and education. Then there's a slight mentor component with the Women's Foundation of Arkansas now. So it's been a great privilege. And we have a podcast because we started seeing more and more women are just like, okay, I love seeing everyone, but also can we condense some of this into my drive time? Can I get information in a different way from you? And so we've been doing the podcast now for a little, about a year and a half, and it's entertaining. I think sometimes my editors are just like, okay, you got enough people sitting in the reel of recordings. Slow down a little bit, but there's so many fun people to talk to.
Tell us about a hard season that you walked through, and what did it teach you about yourself and that you maybe couldn't have learned any other way?
So one day after I've been practicing, I would say 6 years, I looked up and realized all my good law school friends had moved. I mean, it's just that kind of trajectory of life. I mean, you're together for so long, you start practices, people, their practices grow, they move to different locations. But I suddenly found myself with no friends. And Jody Dilday likes to tease me about this because she's like, "You can tell you realized you needed friends." I'm like, "I did. I very much needed a community." And so it was a little bit rough at times because how do you make friends as an adult? I mean, what do you do? Go to networking events? That's a little weird. And especially if you don't know anybody else in the room. You've been there. You've seen those people that are just like, "Ugh, I know I need to be here, but I don't know anyone." And so the wallflowers, and that was me at one point, just not knowing how to remember how to talk to people. So
Mhm.
it's a little odd. Clearly not me.
That's That is not what I was expecting since I know you now. And the thing is that so this podcast is sponsored by the Be Freaking Awesome podcast. And what we have seen on ours is that we have actually 2 to 3 episodes on making friends as an adult, and the last one shot to the top of an Apple Podcast list, and it is doing very well. So apparently, it is a very common question that people have. How do you make friends as an adult? That is literally we have a podcast episode, and we had an inkling when we did the first one about a year and a half ago because Sammy, my daughter Sammy, the other co-host for this, anyway, we had been coaching people and it kept coming up in coaching. And we were like, okay, let's talk about, and it would come up in friend conversations too of people that were just, you'd get to know somebody and they're like, oh, thank you. Cause I don't know how to do, and I'm like, wow. So anyway, it is a real thing that people, so if you feel that way, ladies, do not feel alone. Um, it is a very common thing, and you have to be so intentional. I remember when my kids started graduating high school that I looked around and all of my friends were yours was law school, mine was like all of my friends were related to my kids' activities, and as you stare down empty nest, you're like, "Oh, well, now what?" And so I think that I would say intentionality. It sounds like what you also had to really do. Speaking of kids, you do have children
Yeah.
and would love to hear some of the tips and tricks you've learned about some work life balance.
Balance is one of those words that is slightly evil in my world because it doesn't work. It doesn't exist. It's more, again, about intentionality almost. I do have 3 children. I get one of them back today because she's moving back for a hot minute before she does some travel, and then she's moving in with a group of friends. But then I also have a 16-year-old that's in Jonesboro today running the state track meet. And I have a 13-year-old that's salty and also runs, but it was kind of weird. I started feeling that empty nester situation when it's just the 2 of us today,
Mhm.
this morning. But I my calendar is something I live and die by. So it's color coded. My assistant thinks it's like the craziest thing ever because she doesn't understand how things get moved around and they change color based on how important they are. If the deadline is getting more crucial, it gets green, like it must stare at it color. And then family stuff, I mean, it all gets wrapped up in the calendar. And if I'm not somewhere, it's because it didn't make it on the calendar.
Mm.
And I'll always have those little freakouts. Someone texted me last night. She's like, "Did you go?" Like, "Did I go where? I've been at home all night. What did I forget to go to?"
I hate when I see like a Facebook event and I'll say, yes, I'm going. And they used to not have the add it to your calendar. And I would be like, I wanted to go. And I didn't do the little now at least they do the extra step because it would you have to be manually go over and type it and I'll miss fun events and all the things. So calendar, I think that's the second or third time I've heard that and just on this podcast. We have to have the calendar. Northwest Arkansas is growing and changing at a pace that is very hard to keep up with. What do you hope never changes about this community, no matter how big it gets?
Fayetteville in particular. I mean, it's all of Arkansas, in my opinion, but Fayetteville in particular. You run into people, and if you have a problem, it seems like everybody is just like, "Well, let me help you." There's always those connection points of, "Oh, you need to talk to somebody at the chamber," and you can see it on social media. Saw someone recently, like, "I need to talk to someone at the chamber," and there were, like, 8 different people within, like, 5 minutes saying, "Jennifer, you need to help." And
Yeah,
it's just that I don't want that to ever change. I want everyone to stay as friendly and helpful to the new people and just our existing residents.
that's awesome. Speaking of new people, if you could talk to a woman on their first day of their career, what advice would you have for them?
I'd say get involved. I mean, there's a lot to get involved with. I mean, there's work stuff probably. And then there's also our community. When I was a new attorney, I decided again, okay, let's see. I don't have to study anymore. TV was reality shows, and I'm not too big into those. So I wanted to go and do something, and I called the Susan G. Komen office at the time because my grandmother had had breast cancer, and I got invited to the steering committee meeting. I have no idea why Allison Leavenworth thought a volunteer would do that. And then suddenly, Helen Lampkin's calling and saying, "Don't you want to run registration?" No one told me that there were 20,000 people that registered for that thing and that I would be leading it as a new attorney. But it was like, I mean, also, everyone knows I like to stay busy. So it was intense, but fun. It was a great opportunity. And I met so many good people that I still see. They're on
Yeah.
committees with me now, or
Mm.
I see them out at networking events. So,
In your career and specifically your industry, think there's still a glass ceiling?
yes. I mean, But we see it in the law, and that there are a lot of women that don't end up being patent attorneys, for one. I mean, there are very few women patent attorneys in the state and in the country in general. Then there's even more issues with just women across the board. I mean, it doesn't have to be business. I was talking to a woman entrepreneur earlier this week, and her parents both have Alzheimer's, and her dad was diagnosed when her kid was in the house. And so she's trying to work through like solutions for that sandwich generation that a lot of us find ourselves in. And society as a whole has decided that women are the caregivers. I think most of us embrace that. But also, when we have a career, and she was saying how her career was a little bit more adaptive for that, and mine is too. But still, you feel that stress of like letting down your business partners, which I have an obligation to, but then also letting down your parents and kids. And how are you juggling all these things? So it's just that ceiling becomes slightly oppressive when we could be turning to the men just as much and saying, you can be caregivers. And thank God mine is actually the caregiver in our world. So I will nurse bumps and bruises, but he's the one that feeds everybody. So
I was just telling the story the other day. I remember being in this little small group, and the men were hanging out wherever, and the women were at the table, and they were like, "How does your family handle it that you travel so much?" I go, I don't know what you mean. Like, couldn't you, like, what? What do you mean?" And they were like, "No, no, no, but like when you travel, like, do you have to prepare all the meals? Do you have to get everything right? Like, you have to get everything organized?" I'm like, Why? Why would I do that? Sammy has some crazy stories of when my husband went out of town with the littles, the younger children, on, like, soccer trips, and she, like, one time had to be like, "Mom, this has been a fun weekend, but I need some protein." Like, uh, I love eating Rhodes rolls and having ice cream, like, all the things, but the other day, she said, "Mom, you perfected girl dinner before girl dinner was a thing." So, my husband has always been the one like that. I'm like, "Oh, no, our family was way more stressed out if dad travels than if mom travels." Like, it's just not a thing. So, I
I
think it
remember
should, but society in general, you're absolutely correct.
it's funny that you mentioned the food because I do remember early on, I can't remember where my husband was, I think traveling to visit family. And Olivia was just like, "What's for dinner?" I'm like, "Oh, get some cake." I mean, and she just looks at me as there's cabbage in the fridge, Mom. I will eat the cabbage. And this is what she was probably 5. And legit, my children were born wanting balanced meals. And now, I mean, thank God they can cook because I really don't. I can make like 30 things, which they think is comfort
Oh,
food. So I mean, that's great.
absolutely.
I'm winning some mom things.
That is kind of one of my favorite things about this stage of our careers is when we do talk about young advice for younger women, like, just to kind of blow their mind a little bit. Like, I hope that somebody listens to this little segment and is like, "Wait, what? I don't have to be the one to feed my kids? No.
No.
No, you don't have to be the ones to pick them up from daycare. You don't have to be the one to pick them up from, like, all the things." I was at most of my kids' soccer games. My husband never missed. Like, he that was his thing. He did not miss. He still doesn't like to miss the grandchildren. And I'm like, "Oh, I need to go a couple of times this each season."
My
Like,
husband's in Jonesboro for the track meet, and I flat out told the kid, I'm like, "You know that I've been to as many meets as I can make,
yeah.
but mommy has to be at the T2 gala tonight because I'm on the committee. And so, what do you do there?"
Yeah,
I'll get a video. I mean, I run with it. How many other
right.
things do I need to do? But also, I
Thank
mean,
you.
new moms also need to hear you don't have to do all the PTA things. You don't have to give the fancy Pinterest teacher presents. More than
Yes.
likely, the teachers don't want them anyway. So
Thank you.
just give yourself grace. Do what your kids will remember, which is running with them and playing nursing boo-boos.
What's it's so interesting because 'cause I'll tell you who taught me this lesson, and unexpected, out of the mouths of babes, but my son was going into 5th or 6th grade, and with Sammy in 6th grade, I had been the PTO president, I had been Homer mom, and maybe he was younger than that, but after he had seen me do all that with Sammy, he goes, "Hi, I don't need all that. Like, I would rather you not be the Homer mom because when we're having parties, I would rather you come and sit with me." And I want to sit with you, and, like, if we're making crafts, I don't want you leading, I want you to sit and I remember, like, this was revolutionary 'cause this is a boy mom. We don't have these kinda conversations, but he goes, "I don't need you to be all that." And I just think out of the mouths of babes, and it was really helpful. Now I feel bad because Lexi just got that version of me because I was like, I enjoyed it so much more that I never signed up to do anything. Sammy was her Girl Scout leader,
Yeah.
co-leader, because I was done by then. Anyway, so I hope this turns out to be great conversations for moms, especially working moms. We need to hear that it's okay not to be all the things,
Yes.
and we can kick out some of the glass ceiling ourselves. Because sometimes it's not somebody else that's limiting us, it's the us limiting ourselves by what we're willing to take on. So thank you. So much wisdom, Meredith. We have a few rapid fire questions we ask everyone.
Okay.
So, you ready?
Yep.
The job you wanted at 10 years old.
Wanted to be a teacher.
Okay. I think we all did. Beach, mountains, city, or staycation.
That was hard. I mean, beach when I'm wanting to just sit and read a bunch, but the city is so hard. I mean, I love exploring. So I would love to, that's a hard thing to balance. Both.
Yes, and.
Yes, and
Beach and city. There you go. A bonus hits your account today. What's the first thing you do with it?
I just have a new house. We've been remodeling for the last 6 months, and so I need a new couch. Because also, kid moving into an apartment, she's got to take couches. So,
You're not buying her the new couch.
well,
Uh,
she's taking the old couches. Yes.
there you go. Describe your work wardrobe in 3 words.
Mm. I lots of dresses. I thought, okay, so 3 words: dresses and tennis shoes.
Okay, I love it. The one goal you have not told anyone about yet. Are you ready to share it and say it out loud?
I I don't know if this will ever happen. We'll see. I've been working on running a half marathon in every state. I'm at 40. And
What?
so a lot of people started asking what happens after. And I kind of want to run Boston. I don't want to pay to run Boston. I mean, I want to actually qualify to run Boston, but that I might be like 70 before like the metric of me getting faster and the time getting lower. I mean, so we'll see.
I know somebody that's 72 and still does ultras.
I,
So,
ultras are
you
a
never know.
whole different world though.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could. But
Yeah.
I don't have the time commitment. I don't have the time commitment for Boston. This is why I'm not
Yeah.
fast enough for it, but
There you go. That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you and all your wisdom.
thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. This has been sponsored by Chamber Fayetteville. And remember to join us on June 16th. If you're listening to this after June 16th, then look on the website to find the next time that we'll be having Women of All Generations. And until next time, when we can hear the next her story.